Religious beliefs in ancient Egypt. The Pantheon of gods. Ancient Egyptian religion was polytheistic, with a vast pantheon of gods and goddesses. Each deity had specific roles and attributes, and they were often associated with particular aspects of life and the natural world. The most prominent gods included Ra, the sun god and creator of the world. Ra was considered the king of the gods. He traveled across the sky during the day in his solar bark and journeyed through the underworld at night. Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and fertility. Osiris was a central figure in Egyptian mythology and was believed to have been the first pharaoh of Egypt. Isis, the wife of Osiris and mother of Horus. Isis was a goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood. She was revered for her protective qualities and her role in the resurrection of Osiris. Horus, the sky god, often depicted as a falcon or a man with a falcon's head. Horus was associated with kingship and was believed to protect the reigning pharaoh. Anubis, the god of mummification and the afterlife. Anubis was depicted as a man with a jackal's head. He was responsible for guiding souls to the afterlife and overseeing the embalming process. Thoth, the god of writing, knowledge, and wisdom, often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis. Thoth was associated with the moon and served as a scribe for the gods. Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Ma'at was central to the Egyptian understanding of balance and harmony in the universe. The concept of Ma'at. Ma'at was not just a goddess but also a concept that represented truth, justice, and cosmic order. It was believed that the stability of the universe depended on the maintenance of Ma'at. The pharaohs were seen as the earthly guarantors of Ma'at, and their rule was intended to ensure balance and harmony in both the natural and human worlds. Ma'at's principles influenced all aspects of Egyptian society, including law, politics, and morality. Adherence to Ma'at was essential for both individuals and the state. The concept extended to the afterlife, where it was believed that the deceased would be judged based on their adherence to Ma'at during their lives. This judgment was symbolized by the weighing of the heart against the feather of Ma'at in the Hall of Judgment. The afterlife. The ancient Egyptians had a complex belief system regarding the afterlife. They believed that life continued after death in a different form, and the quality of this afterlife depended on the individual's actions during their earthly existence. The journey to the afterlife involved several stages. 1. Death and embalming. Upon death, the body was mummified to preserve it for the afterlife. The process involved removing the internal organs, drying the body with natron, and wrapping it in linen bandages. 2. The journey to the underworld. The deceased soul, known as the Ka, would embark on a perilous journey through the underworld. This journey was fraught with challenges and required the guidance of spells and prayers from the Book of the Dead. 3. Judgment in the Hall of Ma'at. In the Hall of Ma'at, the deceased's heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul was deemed worthy and granted access to the afterlife. If not, it was devoured by the monster Ammit. 4. The afterlife. Those who passed the judgment would enter the field of reeds, a paradisiacal realm where they could enjoy a continuation of their earthly life in an idealized form. Religious rituals in ancient Egypt. Daily temple rituals. Temples were the centers of religious life in ancient Egypt, and they were believed to be the dwelling places of the gods on earth. Daily rituals were conducted by priests to honor the deities and maintain the divine order. These rituals included morning ritual. The day began with the opening of the mouth ceremony, which symbolically awakened the god or goddess. The statue of the deity was cleaned, dressed, and offered food and drink. Offerings and prayers. Priests presented offerings of food, drink, incense, and other goods to the deity. Prayers and hymns were recited to honor the god and seek their favor. Closing ritual. At the end of the day, the temple was ritually closed, and the deity was believed to return to their celestial abode. These rituals were essential for maintaining Ma'at and ensuring the favor of the gods. The priests who conducted these ceremonies were considered intermediaries between the gods and the people. Funerary rituals. Funerary rituals were a crucial aspect of Egyptian religion, as they were believed to ensure the safe passage of the deceased to the afterlife. Key elements of these rituals included preparation of the body. The body was mummified to preserve it for eternity. This process involved removing the internal organs, drying the body with natron, and wrapping it in linen bandages. Funeral procession. The body was transported to the tomb in a solemn procession. Mourners, including family members and professional mourners, accompanied the body, wailing and singing dirges. Burial. The body was placed in a tomb, along with grave goods such as food, jewelry, and items for use in the afterlife. Spells and prayers from the Book of the Dead were inscribed on the tomb walls or placed within the tomb to guide the deceased through the underworld. Post-burial offerings. Relatives of the deceased continued to make offerings at the tomb to sustain the ka in the afterlife. These offerings included food, drink, and other necessities. Funerary rituals were elaborate and varied depending on the social status of the deceased. Royal burials, such as those of the pharaohs, were particularly grand and included the construction of monumental tombs such as pyramids and elaborate mortuary temples. Festivals. Festivals were an integral part of religious life in ancient Egypt, providing opportunities for communal worship and celebration. Some of the most significant festivals included the Opet Festival, held in Thebes. This festival celebrated the rejuvenation of the pharaoh's divine power. The statues of Ammonius, Mut, and Khonsu were transported from Karnak to Luxor in a grand procession. The festival included feasting, music, and dance, and it reinforced the connection between the pharaoh and the gods. The Sed Festival. This festival was held to rejuvenate the pharaoh's rule and demonstrate his continued ability to govern. It involved a series of rituals, including the pharaoh running a symbolic race and offering sacrifices to the gods. The Wag Festival. Celebrated in honor of the dead, this festival involved offerings and rituals to ensure the well-being of deceased ancestors in the afterlife. It was held annually and included visits to tombs and offerings of food and drink. The Beautiful Festival of the Valley. This festival was celebrated in Thebes and involved a procession of the god Ammonius statue from Karnak to the mortuary temples on the west bank of the Nile. The festival included feasting, music, and offerings to the deceased. Festivals provided a sense of community and allowed people to participate in religious life. They were marked by joyous celebrations, feasting, and public processions, reinforcing the connection between the people and the divine. Temples and sacred sites. Temples as divine residences. Temples were considered the earthly homes of the gods and were central to religious life in ancient Egypt. Each temple was dedicated to a specific deity and served as a focal point for worship and ritual. The design of temples followed a standard layout, with the following key features. Pylon gateway. The entrance to the temple was marked by a massive gateway flanked by towering pylons. These pylons symbolized the horizon and the place where the sun rose and set. Courtyard. Beyond the gateway was an open courtyard where the public could gather for festivals and ceremonies. This area was often adorned with statues and obelisks. Hypostyle Hall. The Hypostyle Hall was a grand hall filled with columns, representing a primordial swamp from which creation emerged. Only priests and select officials were allowed access to this area. Sanctuary. The innermost part of the temple was the sanctuary, where the statue of the deity resided. This area was considered the most sacred and was accessible only to the high priest and the pharaoh. Temples were centers of economic and political power as well as religious worship. They owned vast estates, employed numerous workers, and played a significant role in the local economy. Major temples and sacred sites. Several temples and sacred sites held particular significance in ancient Egypt. Some of the most notable include Karnak Temple. Located in Thebes, Karnak was one of the largest temple complexes in Egypt. It was dedicated to the god Ammonius and featured a vast array of structures, including the great hypostyle hall, obelisks, and sacred lakes. Karnak was a major religious center and a site of significant festivals. Luxor Temple. Also located in Thebes, Luxor Temple was connected to Karnak by the Avenue of Sphinxes. It was dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship and played a central role in the Opet Festival. Temple of Hatshepsut. Situated in Deir el-Bahari. This mortuary temple was built by the female pharaoh Hatshepsut. It was dedicated to Ammonius and Hatshepsut's own divine birth, and it featured impressive terraces and colonnades. Abu Simbel, built by Ramses II in Nubia, the Abu Simbel temples were carved out of solid rock. The Great Temple was dedicated to Ramses II and the gods Ammonius, Are-Horikti, and Ta, while the smaller temple was dedicated to Nefertari and the goddess Hathor. Temple of Philae. Located on an island in the Nile, Philae was dedicated to the goddess Isis. It was an important pilgrimage site and continued to be used as a religious center even after the decline of ancient Egyptian religion. These temples were not only places of worship, but also architectural marvels that showcased the skill and artistry of ancient Egyptian builders. Religious texts and literature. The Pyramid Texts. The Pyramid Texts are among the oldest religious texts in the world, dating back to the Old Kingdom. They were inscribed on the walls of the pyramids of several pharaohs, including Unas and Teti. The texts consisted of spells, prayers, and incantations designed to protect the deceased pharaoh and ensure his safe passage to the afterlife. Key themes in the pyramid texts included the resurrection of the king, his ascension to the heavens, and his union with the gods. The coffin texts. Following the pyramid texts, the coffin texts emerged during the Middle Kingdom. These texts were inscribed on the coffins of non-royal individuals, reflecting a democratization of religious beliefs. Like the pyramid texts, the coffin texts contained spells and prayers intended to guide the deceased through the afterlife. They also included instructions for the proper conduct of funerary rituals and the performance of various magical rites. The Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead, also known as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, was a collection of spells, prayers, and incantations intended to guide the deceased through the afterlife. Unlike the earlier texts, the Book of the Dead was written on papyrus scrolls and placed in the tombs of the deceased. It provided detailed instructions for navigating the underworld, avoiding dangers, and achieving a successful judgment in the Hall of Ma'at. Other religious texts. In addition to these major texts, ancient Egyptian religion included a wide range of other religious literature. This included hymns and prayers dedicated to various gods, magical texts for protection and healing, and instructional text for the proper conduct of rituals. These texts provide valuable insights into the religious beliefs and practices of ancient Egyptians and their understanding of the divine. The role of priests. Priesthood and religious authority. Priests played a central role in ancient Egyptian religion, serving as intermediaries between the gods and the people. The priesthood was a highly respected and influential institution with various ranks and specializations. The high priest, or Hemnetjer, was the chief priest of a temple and held significant religious and political authority. Other ranks included the Wab priests, who performed purification rituals, and the lectors, who recited sacred texts during ceremonies. Priests were responsible for conducting daily rituals, maintaining temple properties, and overseeing the administration of temple estates. They also played a crucial role in funerary practices, ensuring that the deceased received the proper rites and offerings. Training and duties of priests. Becoming a priest required extensive training in religious texts, rituals, and temple administration. Priests were often drawn from elite families and underwent rigorous education to prepare for their roles. Their duties included conducting rituals. Priests performed daily rituals to honor the gods and ensure their favor. These rituals included offerings, prayers, and hymns. Maintaining temples. Priests were responsible for the upkeep of temple properties and the management of temple estates. This included overseeing agricultural production, collecting taxes, and maintaining temple buildings. Educating the public. Priests served as educators, teaching religious texts and rituals to apprentices and the broader community. They also played a role in transmitting religious knowledge and traditions. The priesthood was a complex and multifaceted institution that played a vital role in maintaining the religious and social order of ancient Egypt. The influence of religion on society. Religion and politics. Religion and politics were deeply intertwined in ancient Egypt. The pharaoh was considered a divine ruler, chosen by the gods to maintain Ma'at and ensure the prosperity of the kingdom. This divine mandate provided the pharaoh with both religious and political authority, reinforcing his position as the central figure in Egyptian society. The construction of temples and monuments, the performance of rituals, and the celebration of festivals were all means by which the pharaoh demonstrated his piety and reinforced his connection to the gods. Religion also played a role in legitimizing the pharaoh's rule, as seen in the coronation rituals and the concept of divine kingship. Religion and daily life. Religion permeated every aspect of daily life in ancient Egypt. Ordinary Egyptians participated in religious practices through personal devotion, offerings, and prayers. Household shrines were common, and people often sought the favor of specific gods for protection, health, and prosperity. Festivals provided opportunities for communal worship and celebration, allowing people to come together and participate in religious life. These festivals were marked by joyous celebrations, feasting, and public processions, reinforcing the connection between the people and the divine. Religion and art. Religion was a major influence on Egyptian art and architecture. Temples, tombs, and monuments were adorned with intricate carvings, paintings, and inscriptions that depicted religious themes and stories. These artistic representations served both a decorative and a didactic purpose, conveying religious beliefs and reinforcing the connection between the earthly and divine realms. The artistry of ancient Egypt was also evident in the creation of statues and other religious artifacts. These objects were often used in rituals and ceremonies, serving as physical embodiments of the gods and providing a tangible connection to the divine. The evolution of Egyptian religion. The Old Kingdom. During the Old Kingdom, the religious beliefs and practices of ancient Egypt began to take shape. The construction of the pyramids, with their associated pyramid texts, reflects the importance of the afterlife and the central role of the pharaoh in maintaining Ma'at. The sun god Ra emerged as a prominent deity, and the concept of divine kingship was firmly established. The Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom saw a democratization of religious beliefs, with the development of the coffin texts and the spread of funerary practices beyond the royal family. The god Osiris rose to prominence as the ruler of the afterlife, and the cult of Osiris became widespread. Temples and religious practices became more accessible to the general population, and local gods gained greater importance. The New Kingdom. The New Kingdom was a period of significant religious development, marked by the construction of grand temples and the expansion of the Pantheon. The worship of Ammonius, centered in Thebes, became particularly important, and the god was often syncretized with Ra to form Ammonius Ra. The period also saw the emergence of the Amarna period, during which Pharaoh Akhenaten attempted to establish a monotheistic worship of the sun god Aten. This religious revolution was short-lived, and traditional beliefs were quickly restored after Akhenaten's death. The Late Period and beyond. In the Late Period, Egyptian religion continued to evolve, incorporating influences from neighboring cultures and undergoing further changes in practice and belief. The worship of Isis and other gods spread beyond Egypt, and the construction of temples and monuments continued. Despite the eventual decline of ancient Egyptian civilization, many of its religious concepts and practices persisted and influenced later cultures and religions. Conclusion. Ancient Egyptian religion was a rich and complex system of beliefs, rituals, and practices that permeated every aspect of life. From the worship of a vast pantheon of gods to the elaborate rituals associated with death and the afterlife, religion played a central role in shaping the culture and society of ancient Egypt. The enduring legacy of these religious traditions continues to fascinate and inspire people around the world, providing a window into the spiritual and cultural life of one of history's greatest civilizations.